So I am now recording. Welcome to our Soul Retrieval and Trauma Healing Across Time e-workshop. And I like to use the word e-workshop, even though webinar is basically the same thing, because I like the idea of getting together and working on something and connecting and collaborating a little bit. It's really easy for me to sit here and talk about things and kind of go on and on about my ideas and my paradigm and my beliefs and my practice. But I really want to take some space to share with everyone that's here. People that are here are experienced in a lot of these things. A lot of you have done a lot of healing work, or maybe you're healers yourselves. You might have a lot of experience in doing what they call soul retrieval, working with soul fragmentation, parts work. There's a lot of different names for these practices, but they're all very interesting from the fact they're very channeled experiences. They're very inner experiences, and we arrive at this understanding of what soul fragmentation is through inner work. It makes more sense as we go within. And I'll speak a little bit more about that here in a moment. But before I do that, I want to open up an opportunity for those of you who are present to tell us about your experiences and your ideas around soul retrieval or soul fragmentation, if you have any at all. And just open up, if you will, if you can.
Well, my experiences on soul retrieval is on this plane. It's not ancestral. It was individual. So I'm looking forward to your version of soul healing across ancestors.
And that's one aspect that we definitely do connect with. It's really interesting what comes up. And I think that as those of you who haven't experienced how we do soul retrieval and Akashic trance work, it's a very inward experience, very visual experience. And I'll talk about that here in a few moments. But what comes of that experience varies quite a bit. So sometimes it is an ancestral image or an ancestral guide that comes through. Sometimes it's a fictional character, an imaginary character that comes through. Sometimes it might be an animal guide who comes through. It's interesting who comes through to me as a guide for you as I seek for these fragments. But the idea of soul fragmentation is something I think a lot of people resonate with at a very primal level. So I'm curious if you have any feedback, if any of you have any feedback or any thoughts about what does it mean to fragment? What does it mean to have a fragmented soul? How could that possibly happen in the understanding of how consciousness works? And I have some ideas about it, but of course I'd like to hear what any of you might have to say about that.
Well, a soul fragments out of protection based on your experiences, whether primarily what I'm used to is in this world. And so with the protection, you have to go back and collect yourself to heal those moments in time where it went into hiding or just got lost based on the situation.
Very well put. I think that is the essence of it. It is a response. It's a response to something that happens. And I think that soul fragmentation happens primarily when we're not able to process energy, to process experiences. And we're not given space for that in life, right? Life has too many pressures to be able to take time to grieve. I think one of the primary soul fragments that a lot of people experience is over grief, over loss. And it could be loss over someone you love passing on. It could be loss of a relationship. It could even be a kind of a grieving over yourself, over another version of yourself, or a potentiality of yourself. And there's this sort of grief that the soul experiences. And it's one of those primary fragments. And it's one of those fragments that typically sort of splinters off by the age of 5. So there's plenty of fragmentation happening in this current incarnation that we can work with. And it's interesting, though, as we heal ourselves, and this is where we get into sort of the metaphysical space where we're just going with it, right? As we heal ourselves, we are healing our ancestors through the energy field that we share with them, through our DNA, through the connection that we have in our DNA to the soul group, to the collective that is our ancestors as we move through time with them. So there is this sort of collective healing that happens. There's a reason that we're all drawn together at this sort of specific DNA frequency. So we're healing our children, we're healing our parents, we're healing our grandparents, we're healing everyone really. And it all kind of harkens to the idea of when you fragment off, when something fragments off, say you have this basic feeling of unworthiness that's the result of a soul fragment due to abuse or neglect under the age of 5.
Correct.
Probably the most common thing that happens to humans and the source of most human evil, to be honest, is that sort of neglect, feelings of unworth, feelings of resentment, feelings of not being good enough. And that primary fragment, it goes off somewhere that also contains a positive thing. It contains something that is about innocence, something that is about our ability to really enjoy life and to thrive, because that's what we cut away from ourselves when we fragment. Our ability
Correct.
to really experience life authentically. And that's what we want to get back. So these fragments, though, maybe could attach to other people. It's not like they go out into some void. Sometimes I conceptualize a void when I'm doing this work, but if you understand how entity theory works, and I've been gaining more and more understanding of entity work as I've been doing this practice, the Akashic trance work that I do, and with my partner, with my clients and my students, and seeing how there's this personification that happens around these energies, and we pass them around. We pass them around. It's kind of like we pass these things around in our collective consciousness. And there is work that we can do to heal ourselves, to separate ourselves from these. And these fragments that we recover of ourselves are things that are haunting others. I put that very kind of like glibly, like a
Oh,
child's story.
interesting.
But
Okay.
yes, puts the entire idea of haunting and of demons and all those things in a different context. What if the demon that is harassing someone else is something that my soul needs to recover to heal?
Okay.
So I'm not talking about embracing demons by any means, but what I'm saying is that where are these fragments? Are they out there being held by some guide? Because it seems like that, or are they affecting someone else? So there is a collective healing that happens when we do this parts work, this fragmentation work.
Okay.
So just some things to think about as we move through our experiences, and it puts into perspective the responsibility that we have to heal. Like the karma that we incur is someone else's past life. We are right now someone else's past life experience. We're passing on our Akashic experience to others. We're passing on, oh, we lost somebody. We're passing on our experience to all the beings around us
Okay.
in our energy field. Our ancestors, everything that they've done affects us. So if we think about that, then it's obvious. Like we are the product of our ancestors' actions, their karma. So through this process, we're healing. Through this process, we're continuing to activate, we're continuing to actualize, continuing to integrate our energy field for the good of everyone. So
Okay.
I go on and on about these things, but I'd like to talk a little bit about what we do at Akashic Trance Work and how the process works. I do want to check really quick and make sure that others are able to get in. There's a couple people that are trying to get in, and I want to send them the link so they can get in. So just bear with me one moment, please.
Sure.
I'd like to speak a little bit to Irene's comment. Irene, I really love what you shared about the cracks in the vase and being filled with the colors and the gold, and it reminds me of some ancient
Mm.
practices and things. And it really makes me think about a question I was asking Nathan just the other day. We were just sort of considering, is it possible to have to be fully intact again, to be fully whole and healed again? And I really love how you illustrated that, because it almost shows the potential for being even, how can, when we do reintegrate these fragments, how can it even be an enhancement to our experience and what we can offer the world, and our the masterpiece that we are, so to speak, as that base. I really love that. I wonder what you guys think about that, and healing potential, and what, how that affects us when we do come to that point of reintegration.
I love that so much. Yeah.
My understanding and experience makes a situation that was traumatic come back to a 0 point, which means it loses energy, whatever occurred.
To me, it's like we're opening up space, right? I mean, think about how much energy we expend trying to compensate for these wounds, right? We're always almost like on edge. As a part of us almost like braced from this cutting away, from this loss. So, like when I bring these fragments back into myself, I really feel this wholeness, this real sense of just open, expansive energy that I can use now for other things. Like I can use this energy. Hi, everyone. We got more people here. We got Maria, we got Ray. Great. I love having a nice group together for this. Wonderful. Indrek, hey, how you doing? It's good to see you. So we're talking just about, in general, soul fragmentation and how it feels to reintegrate these fragments. And I think a few of you have done some Akashic trance work, soul retrieval practice. And the way we do it is interesting. And I wanted to just share the story about how Astara and I came upon the soul retrieval practice. And I think everyone here pretty much knows what we do at Akashic trance work. Is there anyone here that's not familiar with kind of how our practices work and what we focus on? I don't want to take too much time to go into all that unless anyone wants to hear it. Hey, Heather. It's good to see you. Heather's been doing some really amazing parts work, and I'm hoping that she'll take some time to share some of that, because there's some really insightful experiences we can have when we go through these different modalities. So if you ever want to share any of that experience, Heather, it would be very helpful. But right now, I just wanted to kind of share the general story of how Star and I came upon this particular aspect of our modality. And it's really interesting because in Akashic trance work, what we do is we explore consciousness. We explore different states of awareness through induction techniques. We use essentially hypnotherapy and breath work and different intentional processes to bring ourselves to different states of awareness. And we do a lot of exploration in that space. We explore what we like to call astral space, which we essentially conceptualize as the imaginative, creative capacity and how it interfaces with the subconscious mind, because we have the understanding that the subconscious mind communicates symbolically. So if we interact with the subconscious mind symbolically, then we'll be able to connect with our deeper selves, with our higher selves, our lower selves, our eternal Akashic selves in a more effective, more engaged way that we can't really accomplish at a conscious level. So that's generally kind of what we do. And, as we've worked through this modality, we've done different things. We've worked with past lives, and we've done this ancestral memory stuff, and we've explored starseed connections and different spirit guide connections, animals, all sorts of things happen. I mean, it's just every day I'm surprised by what comes next. I think I've seen it all, and I'm like, whoa, I didn't see that happening. The other day I experienced someone who was a walk-in from a parallel version of themselves. And if you think about that for a second, kind of blows the mind. But those are the kind of experiences that I have. So, it's difficult to kind of surprise me at this point. People will tell me these strange things. I'm like, okay, well, what next? What happened then? And people actually get kind of annoyed. Astara gets really annoyed with me because I do that, because she's like, I traveled to my parallel dimension today. I'm like, oh, really? Because it's just commonplace for me. But this practice really brought a new level of understanding. And I really thought I had an understanding of the universe that was pretty locked down to this idea of souls traversing through time in this sort of orderly paradigm. But it's a little bit more complex than that. And I think that what I've come to understand through the soul retrieval process is that not everything is so finite, not everything is so absolute. There are a lot of gray areas where things intersect. There's a deep symbolic language that we all share, and we are all affected by the fragmentation. My fragmentation is your fragmentation. We're all mirrors of each other. If you understand the fundamental Ubuntu unity principle, which is something that Astara brought me, and every day I'm so thankful that she introduced me to the idea of Ubuntu, the unity principle. So my healing is your healing. And whether we look at it, we were talking a little bit before some of you joined about how our fragments, maybe they go off and haunt others. And whether it's literal or it's figurative, they do. If I'm fragmented, if I'm going out in the world, just expressing, bleeding my trauma out all over everyone, then I'm affecting everyone. My heart field is being programmed with traumatic cellular memory of the things that have happened before. So however we frame things, whether we want to look at it as some sort of metaphysical construct or some sort of psychological process, however we want to conceptualize these things. Maybe it's all biochemical in some way. Maybe it's just about relaxing certain parts of our bodies. There's a lot of different ways to look at these processes, but it gets really interesting when we really engage that creative visual ability in that trance state. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to sit here and just talk about this all the time, but I do want to invite any of you who have just joined to talk a little bit about your experiences with soul fragmentation, soul retrieval, what those concepts mean to you, anything that you'd like to share. I know several of you have done quite a bit of trance work, so anything that any of you want to share about your experiences, please feel free to speak up. We are being recorded.
Hi, it's Heather.
Hey, Heather.
So parts work is something I could talk about for a moment. It's not soul retrieval like by definition, but it's sort of similar. So basically, the only example I can think of right now to explain is, let's say you are struggling with addictive behaviors. So with a guide or a good friend, someone who, knows what you're doing together, so basically, the person getting facilitated would go down into a meditative state, and then the person would guide them to a door, and they'd say, okay, are you ready to meet the part of yourself that is, let's say, an addict, or the part of yourself that is actually the point of attraction for that kind of energy? And then you'll open the door and you'll see yourself, and it's kind of interesting because you don't really know what's going to be behind the door. And then the facilitator will work with you to kind of heal those parts of that fragmented part. So they'll talk to you like they're you. So you're having a mirroring experience. It's kind of cool. They'll say I like that a lot. Why are you doing this? How do you feel? What do you need? All that kind of stuff. So then it opens up just this really interesting thing. And then you ask that part you know, like, do you want to come emerge with me in the future, or do you want to go to a safe space, or like, what are we going to do here, you know, like, what's our next step? And then what happens after that? It's kind of confusing. After that, sorry, I'm kind of I'm having like a time loop moment.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine.
And then, yeah, so from there, I'm trying to remember, I'm just learning about it. It's interesting. And then from there, oh, and then you can coach that aspect of yourself. So now you know, okay, like I have this part, you know, whether it's, I don't know, whatever unpleasant thing keeps kind of coming into your experience, because it's like it's kind of seen as like a point of attraction for whatever
Yeah.
reason. And that's
Okay.
about it. Okay. I hope that was understandable.
Yeah, that's interesting. You know, Astara, you know, we sit in our kitchen and we just go on and on about this stuff like for hours. And she was saying the other day that it's almost like there's these holes that are open. So when the fragmentation happens, it's like it is a point of attraction. It opens up something for something else to enter. And before you joined, we were talking about like the relationship of fragmentation to entity work, and how some of these fragments that are out there may be essentially ghosts, right? And it kind of reframes the whole idea of what is an entity, what is a fragment, what happens to those fragments. We share these fragments, right?
Interesting. I never thought about that.
Yeah, it reframes all of our understanding if you think about it from that perspective. So if I'm taking a fragment back into myself, I'm unhaunting someone else, maybe. You know, it's just an idea, but it fits really well with this kind of understanding that we've been developing through this work. So I really love that practice. I'd like to hear more about that.
Totally. I can maybe find something and post it in your group for people and stuff.
Please do. Yeah, we're all
Right.
about different modalities, about exploring different modalities. You know, I think that the nice thing about Akashic trance work is that we plug into all these different processes. We don't like
Oh,
to say we know a
and,
way, you know, we like to
yeah.
incorporate, right?
And just one other side, like, and then like, let's say you have like a partner or family member or close relationship, you can kind of like let people know, like, hey, I have this part of me, you know, so they can like understand when that part's coming out, maybe like how they could help you better too. Like if someone's having a lot of problems, you know, or I mean, not problems, but if somebody's having some problems with relationships, you know, and stuff like that, people can get to know you better when you know your parts, you know, like
Right.
it helps. Yeah. All
Yeah.
right. Well, I'm going to hop off the voice probably.
Thanks.
But,
Thanks, Heather.
okay. Thank you.
So I think that's a great point. You know, it's not always just about healing trauma. You know, self-actualization is sometimes just a way to be happier. You know, we're not always miserable. We don't always have to try to be like, you know, oh, I'm healing all these ancient aspects. I think that kind of speaks back to something that Irene was sharing earlier. And it's interesting that you were saying it doesn't always have to be traumatic experiences. It could just be a gap. Yeah, I mean, fragmentation, you know, separation is actually part of how consciousness works, right? Consciousness itself, if we start getting kind of abstract here, is about separation, you know, like, you know, our fundamental sort of thing, I am because we are, the ARE cycle. It's this understanding that consciousness relies on this certain level of separation. So there's a certain level of inherent fragmentation in human experience, right? Even at the basic dualistic level, that's a level of fragmentation. But we don't have to be quite so fucking fragmented, honestly. This is what it comes down to. Like, we don't have to be quite so incoherent and disintegrated. And that's really what the work's about. Like, and can we fill up all the gaps? Maybe not, but when we do fill the gaps, it brings us a greater understanding of why that gap was there. You know, it is like that gold technique, that Japanese face technique. I can never remember the name of it. But yeah, it's a very powerful understanding. And we are just sort of filling some gaps and some things that got disconnected, because that's what happens. If you understand entropy, the idea that systems kind of build up and fall apart, it's the natural flowing of energy. So we're all part of that wave. You like my little wave thing? All right, so we've been talking for a little while, and of course, if anybody wants to jump in and share anything or ask any questions, then feel free. But this is a workshop, and this is a practical experience as I really try to make Akashic trance work things, especially the ones that you guys pay for, you know, and make sure you guys get value out of them. So I want to actually demonstrate the soul retrieval process that we do in Akashic trance work. And we've had good success so far in the last few workshops and doing some really interesting stuff. So the way it works, and I'll explain it to you, is I take myself into a trance, and I encourage you, if you want to breathe yourself down into a relaxed meditative state. If you know how to go into a trance state, if you know what the alpha breath is, going into a nice alpha state, usually about 5 counts on the inhale, 5 counts on the exhale will bring most people into a relaxed alpha state. If you want to go deeper, if you want to relax more, visualize along with me, you're welcome to do so, but the intention is not to guide you through a journey. It's basically me going into my space and seeing what comes through. Now, the interesting thing about doing these group experiences is that, you know, I can only bring in so many fragments. Let's see, how many people do we have in here, including myself? 8 people, so 7 other people. So I want to make sure we get everyone, and then there might be a couple people who are not present too who signed up. So we'll do our best. Yeah, 8 people. So what I'll be doing is breathing myself down to that trance state and then calling in some fragments. And these fragments will be symbols, they could be objects, they could be shapes, they may have immediate meaning or significance to you, they may not. I'm not going to know who these fragments are for. There's lots of people in here. I'm just going to call forth some fragments and see what Akasha, see what spirit has. It's a very interesting process. And if a fragment is for you, most likely you'll feel some emotional pull. You might feel an actual physical sensation in your body, and that will be an indication that there is some message in that fragment for you. These fragments are usually held by guides. These guides are beings or energies. They could be animals, ancestors, spirits of some sort, anything. Anything could be a guide. You know what guides are. But I will be calling in that guide and presenting that fragment to you. And again, I won't know who the fragment's for. It'll be up to you to decide if that fragment's for you. And if you want to, and only if you want to, only if you really feel authentically that it's time, you'll have the opportunity to accept that fragment. And that fragment, again, might have obvious meaning right away. It may seem kind of vague. It may not have any meaning at all, but follow your intuition, follow your bodily awareness to see if that's for you, see if that piece is for you. And if nothing else, you can just sit back and relax and enjoy the experience, because it's a very relaxing place to go into. What I'll be doing is taking you into my heart center. I'll be opening up my heart center to all of you, and that's the only way that you can really read someone's Akashic record or do this kind of work. Just so you know, if you want to do this kind of thing, you have to bring people into your heart center. You have to fully open up and fully read them. So I'll be bringing you into that space, and I'll be surrounding you all with complete, divine, unconditional love and compassion. And again, that's the only way that we can do this kind of work. It's the only thing that we can rely on to keep us safe, because it's all there is. So we surround ourselves with that divine, unconditional love energy within that heart space, and that's the place where we have the opportunity, the choice, the sovereign choice to accept these soul fragments. So I'm going to get started here in a moment, unless there's any questions or any thoughts. And again, you don't have to really do anything for this, but I do encourage you to sit back and relax and visualize along with me. All right. I'll be breathing myself down into a nice alpha state. Make sure that I'm not muted. Hello, dear ones. I now welcome you into my heart center, which you may perceive as a bubble of energy, of light and water floating in a gray void. This void is everything that has been lost, everything that has been forgotten, everything that has been discarded, everything that's been thrown away, everything that has been cut away. But in this heart center, we are at peace. We are at rest. We are surrounded by blue light floating in warm water, surrounded by the divine energy of unconditional love, the divine energy of compassion. All is well here in this place. All is peace. Allow yourself to feel the tingling waves of energy coming out from your heart center as our heart centers all connect. Even if you are listening to this as a recording, your heart center is now connected. Our hearts are synchronizing. We are all connected. We are all one. Our heart frequencies are in alignment. There are many powerful beings here today. I welcome you into this space. And I will now seek out into the void to see if any of you have any fragments, any pieces of yourselves that are calling to you. Be mindful. Only accept the fragment that seems to be for you. One fragment may be for all of you. One fragment may be for none of you. This is the nature of consciousness. We are all one. My fragmentation is your fragmentation. This is the key to the Akashic experience. I now seek out into the void, and in comes a guide, an animal being, a large alligator, a reptilian primal being. It moves slowly, floats into this space, opens its large mouth. Inside there is a pearl. As I look into this pearl, there is a story, a primal story of motherhood, the need to protect one's young, the slow nature of the primal mother, a need to feel protected by the mother, but also the need to protect the young, a feeling of being unprotected, unsafe, victim to circumstance. Within this deeper fragment, there is something else, innocence, but more than just innocence, perspective, a perspective that is always slightly off, slightly skewed, never at peace, always suspecting the worst. To recapture this fragment is to recapture innocence and allow the world to bring its best. If this is your fragment, you may receive it now. Take a deep breath in and release any tension as the fragment integrates into your body, into your light body, into your heart, feeling all of your cells release and relax, feeling all of your energy aligning, feeling all of your energy centers aligning, feeling yourself feeling safe and secure and protected as the alligator shrinks down to a tiny little thing, and it scampers off. You're safe. You're safe. And the pearl dissolves into your heart, and you're full of light, surrounded, integrated, whole, complete. And we now seek out into the void for another guide. A woman comes in. She's dressed like a Disney princess. She's elegant. Externally, there is beauty, but her eyes are very tired. There's a sense of deep fatigue, the need to hold it all together. She has in her hands, it's a small purse, and she comes before one of you. She holds the purse. She opens it. It's like a child's purse, like a 7-year-old girl would have. And she holds it upside down, and a little moth flies out, like in the cartoons. We all know what that indicates. There is a message here about expectation, and also about understanding the nature of wealth. But wealth is not the right word. Opulence. Wealth is not always about appearance. The wealthiest people do not appear to be wealthy. The wealthiest people are those who own their own time, who own their own spirit. There is a deep sacrifice in this, a need to maintain an image, and also a feeling of lack despite having to maintain this image. This fragment cuts deep. It is a loss of the ability to enjoy oneself, to enjoy one's own simple existence, to live one's true self without having to maintain an image. If this fragment is for you, you may wish to accept it and allow yourself to experience abundance, experience true wealth, not the wealth of the material, but the wealth of true self-worth. Material wealth will follow, and you can accept your own worth. Take a deep breath if you wish to receive this fragment now. And release all tension. Take a deep breath and feel the contents of that purse, what seemed like nothing, rainbow light moving into your heart, disintegrating that, and the woman is becoming younger. She's becoming a child, a girl, still dressed in oversized play clothing, and she scampers off laughing back to the void. The next guide who comes in is a powerful being, a black bull, like a wild bull, an ancient creature that doesn't exist anymore. Very different from a domesticated creature. There's a fierceness here, pride, arrogance. He knows he's the strongest one in the block. Between his horns, there is a pyramid, a red pyramid. Seems to be floating. The bull comes up slowly before you. If you feel this fragment resonates with you, there is something important here. This pyramid and this guide, they speak to the understanding, the need to understand the masculine place of the masculine energy in organization and focus. Pyramid is a symbol of focus. It has dual meaning. It penetrates, but it also receives. It is all in one. There is an important acceptance of what is often rejected here. The willingness to be bold, the willingness to create monuments, the willingness to move forward. It is not necessarily about literal masculinity, but about the drive, the impulse to move forward in life, to push forward, to push forth. If this is your fragment, take a deep breath. Allow yourself to fully receive, to fully integrate. Take another deep breath. As the fragment fills your light body, allow yourself to release any animosity you have towards yourself. Relax into the simple balance, the simple ability to create, to build, without having to apologize. You never have to apologize for wanting to build something as long as you are doing it compassionately. And the bull just turns around and leaves, same way he came, slowly. In comes another guide, a hawk, fast and fierce and free. He carries in his talons, he has a scroll in his talons, an ancient scroll from a far away, long lost civilization. Comes before one of you, and the scroll opens, and you see words, letters that only have meaning to you. There's a deep mystery here. Seems that long ago in another lifetime, you lived in a place, in a city that has no modern name. The place where it was is covered in jungle and sand now, completely forgotten. Your soul remembers. Your soul remembers something beautiful there. This is a memory of beauty, memory of a song. There's a melody that plays in your head sometimes, a tune, a tone. You can't quite place it. There's a part of your heart that seeks to express this. It's the song of that long lost civilization. All of their culture is gone, but your heart remembers. You were a poet, a singer, a creator in that time. You still are, but that ancient memory haunts you sometimes in your dreams. On this scroll are the words in that ancient language that only you can find in your heart. You're feeling very charged with the energy of this fragment. If it belongs to one of you, we invite you to accept that fragment into your being, to accept that fragment into your heart, to remember those words, to remember that song. Even if you only express it to yourself, there's value in it. The hawk flies away. There are many powerful fragments coming into the space. We call forth into the void again. A small boy comes in. He seems very serious. He has dark skin, dark hair. believe he is of Middle Eastern descent. Dark eyes, very intense. At first glance, he's almost sad, but he's not really sad. He's just very reserved. He's perhaps 10. And he has in his hand, he has an oil lamp. He has a light. This is a fragment that's been lost for a very long time. We are receiving information that it may belong to a previous incarnation, or perhaps an ancestor of one of yours. This child himself is an adjacent ancestor to one of you. I say adjacent ancestor because he's not a direct ancestor. He was the cousin of a grandmother 10 generations ago. And there was something involving a shared relative, a grandfather, I believe, an injustice done to this child. It seems that there is some residual guilt, some residual trauma from this incident within your cellular memory. Look carefully, with careful discernment, each of you, to determine if this is your fragment. Do not accept it unless it is. If it is yours, if you feel it in your body, understand that all experiences happen because experience is what we choose. All beings choose their experiences. All beings must move forward as their soul's urge drives them. This is sometimes contradictory to our desires for other people's actions, but as others move through time, we must respect their sovereign choice, even if it is not the right one, even if it is not the moral one. We must trust that eventually they will come back to full alignment with Source, full alignment with purpose, with compassion. It's a difficult thing to do because it requires deep forgiveness, forgiveness of ourselves, forgiveness of our family members, forgiveness of the mirror fragmentation. It is sometimes said that the sins of the fathers are visited upon the children, and this is true because we inherit all of this. This is all of our fragmentation. If there are none of you who will accept this child, then I will. We call out into the void for one final fragment. This is interesting. And comes two beings, an elephant and an eagle. The eagle is perched on the elephant's back. It seems as if they are one being in a way, even though they're clearly separate. The eagle is the reach of the elephant, and the elephant is the foundation of the eagle. At the end of the elephant's trunk, there's a box. Looks like a gift. Oftentimes these Boxes look like gifts wrapped up in bows. If this fragment is for you, comes before you, the box opens. Inside, it's nothing more than pine cones and sticks and rocks. The elephant and the eagle look very proud to be giving this to you, like a small child presenting something that they made for you. I see now that they are the gift. There is a balance here, balance between higher intuition and lower self awareness foundation. There was a loss, cutting away. The eagle flew too far, and the elephant became afraid and hid in the forest. And after a while, the two good friends could no longer find each other, and the eagle to fly far and wide to find his friend. But through persistence and through their mutual love and connection, they've come back together, presenting you with the ability now to connect to these beings. There is significance behind these appearances. You wish to accept these beings as guides, be to invite their powerful energy into your life. Their gift is of nature, of the simple things, the things that matter. Nothing could exist without these things. Nothing that you see, nothing that you perceive. They are inviting you to tap into your own inner nature, whatever your nature might be, to exalt in it, to connect with these beings, to connect with your rooted elephant self, your far-seeing, far-flying eagle self. If you wish to accept this fragment, you can feel these beings integrating with you. You can feel their energies integrating with you. You can feel all of that ancient wisdom and connection to the natural order integrating with you. Allow it to strengthen you, to connect you with spirit, with all things that grow and move, energizing you, filling your cells. So I like to do as many of those as I can, but I do have a certain limit on how many I can do. So hopefully there was at least something in that experience that resonated with some of you. I think some pretty intense stuff came through for me personally, which doesn't always happen. So, whether or not that was just my mind or there was something deeper, that's up for you to decide. But hopefully some of that did resonate with you. For those of you who haven't been through a private soul retrieval session, if this experience resonated for you, I recommend connecting with me and doing one of these one-on-one, because it can be a very powerful process for sure. So we still have some time left, and I would like to actually take everyone through an integration exercise, as well as just some general self-care, aftercare type of suggestions for any of you who might have followed along and integrated some of these practices today. But before we do that, I want to step away for about 2 minutes to make sure I'm well grounded enough to take you all into that experience. It's very important that we do that kind of thing after something like that. So just take a couple of minutes to breathe and relax, especially if you experience that. Take a couple minutes to just settle into the comfort of your seat. I'll be back in about 2 minutes. All right, we're back. So you guys had some deep experiences. Ray's commenting, Heather's talking about being told a story from an elder of a Native American tribe. It feels very primal to me, like I'm really bringing some stuff through. You know, I've never studied soul retrieval. I've never read about it. This is just something that I came upon accidentally. I kind of got sidetracked when I was telling that story earlier, but we really came on these practices pretty much incidentally through trance work. And it's just, every time I do it, it's just something different. It's very exploratory. I don't know that I could teach, honestly, someone how to do this, because it's one of those things that we come to experience through the other practices that we teach. Like we teach how to go down into trance states and how to explore, and then these are the things that arise through those practices. So yeah, I mean, we all understand the principles of this. And if any of you do want to do this kind of thing, if you are healers, all I can really tell you, you know, I could develop, you know, a 9-week workshop on this if we wanted to, but all I can really tell you is that we have to go into our heart center and welcome people in. We have to welcome people into our centers, into ourselves completely. It's not easy for me to be vulnerable. I mean, I'll be completely vulnerable right now. It's not easy for me to go in and say, I'm going to bring all of you into my heart centers, but I do it because it's what I do. It's my purpose to do this work, to open up to as many people as possible and really help to align, help to center, help to heal. So yeah, it's really incredible, and I'm honored that all of you would take the time to connect. And even if you're watching this as a recording, if you're still watching it, thank you. And I hope that at least one of those fragments was for you. I know that we only did like 5. Star was good enough to keep track of those for me, which is helpful. But I hope at least one of those did. And if not, reach out and we can do some of this work together. I probably will do this webinar again at some point, probably at least not for a month or 2, but if it's something that you guys appreciate, if you like the group aspect of it, it's easy enough for us to do these things. I really enjoy it because it's really engaged process for me. I feel like I don't really have to sit up here and teach something. It's really more about just engaging with all of you and really just being present with all of you and seeing what comes through. So wonderful. So what I'd like to do now, unless there's anything else that anyone wants to share, is I'd like to take us all through a nice, relaxing 5 to 10 minute guided meditation. Thank you, Becky. Yeah, thanks all of you. So let's all just take a couple of nice deep breaths, and we're just going to sit back and relax and breathe together with no particular intention, no particular goal in mind. If you want to relax, you can relax. If you don't want to relax, don't relax. I'm always telling everyone, relax and breathe, but you don't have to relax. You can do whatever you want to do. Just be present with yourself. Just watch your thoughts and feelings. Just maybe make note of any new sensations in your body, in your heart, your mind, any new thought patterns. Maybe just feel a little bit of gratitude to yourself for taking this time. Not everyone is brave enough to do soul retrieval and soul fragmentation. You are a brave, powerful person. You can feel all of your energies together in that space. They're all very powerful people. We've all known each other across many lifetimes. It's good to see you all again. Oh, just relaxing. Or not. Just feeling your thoughts pass through your mind. Feeling your feelings rise. Watching them just flow. through your body. Emotion is about expression. It needs to be expressed. It's okay to be authentic. It's okay to flow. It's okay to express. It may not be always what other people want to hear. We may make others uncomfortable sometimes. We may make ourselves uncomfortable sometimes. It's okay to be uncomfortable. It's okay to experience discomfort. It's just a message. It's just your body communicating a need. It's just your heart communicating a need. Acknowledge it with gratitude. Acknowledge it with love. Everything's working the way it's supposed to. Everything's flowing the way it's supposed to. All is well. All is peace. All is joy. Allow yourself to rest into your heart center. You may have a place you like to visualize, imagine, remember, a place where you've been, a place you like to go. In your mind, in your astral awareness. Go there now, or just rest. It's up to you to do with your thoughts what you want to do. You can chase them away. You can let them flow. You can direct them. But they'll happen regardless. Thoughts arise and thoughts fall. You can choose, just for a moment, to imagine that safe space. It could be any place. It could be every place. A beach, a cabin, a forest, floating in the water, floating in space. While you're there, it's important to take time to bring in all the things you love, all the things that bring you joy. All the things that bring you happiness. If you wish, you can connect with your guides in this place, or you can have it to yourself. It's up to you. Even your closest family members, your closest friends, can give you a little space here. It's okay to connect with yourself, to be with yourself. It's okay to take time to nurture and nourish yourself, which is what you've done by choosing to be here at this moment, listening to me. You're just choosing yourself because you deserve that space. You're allowed to have that space. And no matter what your external connections, no matter what your external expectations, you can always have this space to breathe and relax. Invest some time there. Use your imagination. Play. Create. Build some things. Remember when you were a child. Did you build sandcastles? Did you play with blocks or Legos? Do that now. But here you can build anything. And as you build these things, think about something that you want, something you need, something that would bring you joy. Maybe it's more abundance. Maybe it's love. Maybe it's simply something small, like a tasty meal. Anything. Think about that thing, about how it would feel to experience that state, that meal. Feel how your body responds. Feel how your heart responds. Feel your heart beating. Your heartbeat changes based on what you think about. Notice how it slows down just a bit when you think about these nice things. Doesn't have to be something profound, something spiritual. Doesn't have to be anything other than relaxing, pleasant, joyful. These are the things you can use to activate your heart center, to connect to your deeper awareness, to integrate fully the soul fragments that are waiting for you to welcome them back in. It's your choice. And now, take a deep breath, and I'm going to count slowly to 10. Bring us all to a fully wakeful state, feeling relaxed and at peace, fully integrated, ready to face whatever comes next with joy and enthusiasm and excitement. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I realize that people tend to fall asleep after these guided journeys, but if any of you would like to pipe in and share about your experiences or thoughts for a couple of minutes, and then I want to discuss some sort of aftercare, self-care things that are important to do after these experiences. But is there anything that anyone would like to share or discuss before we do that?
Hey,
Hey, Ray.
how you guys doing? That was incredible. That was really amazing. Um, I really felt like, yeah, being brought into your heart space was, it was like a very open but a very protected sort of realm of experience. It was really sort of amazing to sort of share these stories and uh, have a sense of people's integration as well. And I really did feel sort of what you brought up earlier with this Ubuntu, like as people are being healed, it's also something that's bringing a feedback to everyone else and really invigorating everyone else. So that was just really, really fulfilling to experience with you all.
Thanks, Ray. Yeah, we all do this collectively. I can really feel a difference when I'm doing these workshops with just like one or two people versus when there are more people present. It's kind of like if you do yoga with a group versus doing yoga alone. If you've ever done Kundalini yoga where you move around really quickly, you can actually kind of feel the difference in the electromagnetic frequency in the air. Like you can feel the thickness of the presence, and we're all doing that over this distance. We're all connecting our heart centers remotely, and it's really magical, and I appreciate all of you for being open to this experience. So I'll just talk a little bit about aftercare and self-care. So if you engaged with these experiences at all, if you had any kind of emotional or physical reaction to anything that came up, there probably will be some integration work that you need to do. And in order to effectively do that, it's really important to just be gentle with yourself. And usually I say even over the next 10 to 13 days that you do as much self-care as possible. Usually if I do a one-on-one session, I'll get some specific care recommendations, but usually they center on avoiding intoxicants before bed. We want to make sure that we're dreaming adequately. So things like avoiding caffeine, alcohol, or even cannabis right before bed will help you to dream, because dreaming is a big part of this integration process. It doesn't matter necessarily if you remember your dreams. If you do remember your dreams, definitely journal about them if you want to. If you have time, it might be really valuable. Even if you don't normally do something like that, you may find some real dream integration happening. Also, you may experience some physical detoxification effects, so make sure you're drinking lots of water, cranberry juice, grapefruit juice, things like that. You may even want to add a little bit of salt in your water. Be in water too, like bathe or swim or do any of those things that you can do. Like do those things more so than you normally would if you really want to feel the full impact. And it's not to say that if you don't do those things, nothing will, that you won't be able to experience the benefits of this, but keep it in mind, always self-care. And maybe I'm just trying to get you to self-care in general, but even that can't hurt, right? To remind myself of that all the time. Good. I'm glad that Heather, saying that she had a sense of joy and she was smiling during the integration. Yeah. I wonder, I don't always remember all the details of these channelings, but there was somebody who had this song coming through with this scroll from this ancient civilization, and I'm wondering if any of you got that, because that really kind of threw me for a loop, because it wasn't the normal flavor of a soul fragment. It didn't really have that sort of bitter quality to it. There was like this loss. I don't know. If anybody wants to share about that, if anybody resonated with that, I'd be curious about that one. Sometimes I wonder if these are mine. It's very possible. But yeah, Ray, I had a feeling there was something. I was wondering about that. I kind of, I try not to assign these to people, but, especially since I know that you are a singer. So that's interesting. Yeah, I wondered about that. I kind of have some ideas in the back of my mind about who these might be for, because I know some of you, but I don't want to make any assumptions. But yeah.
Do you want to share that?
I bet it's probably not the best thing, because there's like confidentiality sort of involved in some of these fragments, and I don't want to make any assumptions. Plus my memory, like I could go back and look at these, but the ones that stand out to me, if somebody could tell me what they were, then I could probably make a guess to anyone that was open to me guessing.
I'm
You know
open
what I
to
mean?
you guessing.
Does anyone recall what they were? Because like I said, my memory is
Oh,
disconnected from that experience. So I remembered specifically that one with the scroll because there was something really unique about that one, about its flavor.
Yeah,
that's
oh, go ahead.
no. Go ahead, Ray.
I really, there was like, I was sort of just watching and sort of feeling the energy, but when that one came up, it was, my whole body started sort of like buzzing, and
Mm.
it was, and specific things you mentioned with the jungle was bringing back images that have come to me at sort of random points in times, and sounds that have come to me. It was very strange too. It was very unexpected, but it was like a sudden resonance and a buzzing feeling that experience me. Like I did not know that was there, but that felt it felt really, really resonant. It was, yeah, it was really, it was intense, but it felt, there was an expansive sense seeing that soul fragment, experiencing that soul fragment.
It's interesting. If you think about how much has been lost across time that our bodies and our minds still remember, even, small things like a song is a small thing, but it's also, a big thing. It's an important thing. So yeah, there was something just really poetic about that one. So I'm glad that resonated with you. So Becky, Astara is now telling me the guides and kind of prompting my memory a little bit. So, Becky, I haven't worked with you a whole lot, so I don't necessarily have a really deep read. I don't think I've done a full reading on you, and I kind of have this sort of block that I put in place with myself about reading people too intentionally. So, like I've done readings with a couple other people, so I'm already kind of like tuned into them. So I don't necessarily have a good feel, but if I open myself up, like there's something about the girl with the little girl's purse, if you remember that one. There was something about that which is interesting because I don't necessarily feel like that one fits your personality, but there's something in there about like abundance and just the need to understand true wealth. I'm not saying you, I don't know. I don't like to say these things because,
No,
it
you're
makes,
fine. I'm following because I have to go back and listen because I've kind of checked out for part of it,
yeah. It's just like,
and I'm not sure why.
yeah, I mean, that's totally fine because that's what your spirit is telling you to do. So, but you said that when you saw the eagle or when I talked about the eagle, then you kind of perked up or like
The,
you.
when you talked about the eagle leaving is when I came back.
Hmm. So I would interpret that experience in a couple of different ways because our minds guide us intentionally. So if your attention goes to a certain place, there's a reason. So the way that I would interpret that experience is either you heard something that sent you off on a journey within yourself, that triggered some experience that was more important than any of the fragments that were coming through, which is completely, normal and fine, or there is some real significance to that eagle and what the eagle had. And the eagle and the elephant to me were very much about this higher and lower self sort of awareness,
I resonated with the
right?
eagle and the elephant,
Yeah,
definitely,
yeah,
and the eagle has always kind of been sort of significant.
yeah. There's so much power in those beings, really. I like to often think of the lower self, the animal self, and Sarah B here is saying that she was having a very similar experience. So, is Sarah Brigman here? Who do we have? I think. Sorry. So basically, we all have these lower self awarenesses. We all have these lower self consciousnesses that are like animals. You know, we've talked about that. And if we have a well-conditioned lower self, it's a very powerful ally. And if we have a poorly conditioned lower self, then it can be like a rampaging elephant. So you can't really control an elephant. It has to be properly treated and properly conditioned. So there's that. And I'm recalling now, my memory is kind of coming in. And it's interesting to me, the story of them. And that's what I really like about this work, is it brings in, one of my other kind of things that I do is like to write fiction. I'm a storyteller, and I'm sure some of that kind of bleeds into this work, because it's like there's a primal sort of aspect to the storytelling element that helps bring forth these archetypes and this knowledge and this deep Akashic wisdom. So like there was something in the story of like them separating, the eagle flying off because it was seeking food, and then the elephant gets scared and hides, and then they have to go through a journey to reconnect. So I feel like
And
that.
I've had a similar situation to that recently.
Interesting. Yeah. Wonderful. Well, that's about our time today. I appreciate all of you for connecting, for sharing. Please be mindful of the self-care stuff. If anything pops up, if any unusual visions or dreams or anything at all pops up, Heather was talking with a hawk. I love the hawk energy, and bird energy is so powerful. I could spend a whole workshop just talking about the significance of bird symbolism. That'd be an interesting one. There's so much happening here. I love all of you guys. We're going to go work on our book and our class, and we'll have some really, really amazing content for all of you soon. I appreciate everyone for being present. Reach out anytime if you want to talk. I love talking about this stuff, obviously. So have a wonderful night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.